The massive starship UES Horizon glided silently through the dark expanse of space, its sleek metallic hull reflecting distant starlight. Commander J. Park stood motionless at the bridge, his dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching Zorian diplomatic vessel. The ship was unlike anything humans had ever encountered, a crystalline structure that seemed to shimmer and shift with an almost living quality. Lieutenant Yoon Kim monitored the communication systems, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every crew member knew this moment would change humanity's future forever. The Zorian vessel sent its first transmission. A tall, angular creature materialized on the holographic communication screen. Its body was translucent with intricate crystal-like patterns shifting beneath its skin. When it spoke, the words seemed to slice through the air like razor-sharp fragments. "Humans," the creature announced, its voice a blend of mechanical precision and condescending tone. "We are the Zorian Confederacy. Your species has been deemed worthy of first contact." J. Park remained calm, his military training keeping his emotions perfectly controlled. He understood the diplomatic dance they were about to perform. Behind the polite exterior, he knew this was more an inspection than a genuine meeting. The Zorian diplomat, who identified himself as Koral, continued his monologue. His crystal-like body refracted the bridge's lighting, creating mesmerizing patterns that seemed to mock the human technology around him. "We have observed your civilization for several solar cycles. Your technological development is primitive." Yoon Kim's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on her control panel. She knew every word was a calculated insult, designed to demonstrate Zorian superiority. Koral's projection moved, each movement precise and calculated. "Your space exploration is rudimentary. Your energy systems are inefficient. Your understanding of quantum mechanics is embarrassingly basic." The bridge crew remained silent. Each member had been extensively trained in intercultural communication, understanding that reacting would only validate the Zorians' provocations. Commander Park finally spoke, his voice steady and measured. "We welcome the opportunity to learn and exchange knowledge." The Zorian diplomat seemed almost amused. His crystalline form flickered, revealing complex internal structures that suggested technologies far beyond human comprehension. "Exchange? What could your species possibly offer the Zorian Confederacy?" Little did Koral know. Humanity's greatest strength was not in advanced technology, but in adaptability, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit of survival. The meeting continued, with Zorian representatives displaying increasingly elaborate demonstrations of their technological superiority. Holographic projections showed advanced faster-than-light travel mechanisms, quantum communication networks, and energy manipulation techniques that made human technology look like primitive toys. Yet, beneath the calm exterior of the human delegation, something was brewing. Commander Park and his team were not just passive observers. Every piece of information, every technological display was being carefully analyzed, recorded, and processed. Yoon Kim's neural implant was quietly collecting massive amounts of data, her enhanced cognitive abilities processing information at speeds that would surprise even the Zorian observers. What appeared to be a simple diplomatic meeting was, in reality, humanity's first comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation against an advanced alien civilization. As the meeting concluded, Koral made one final statement that would later be remembered as a critical moment in human history. "Your species show potential, but potential means nothing without capability." Commander Park's response was simple, almost dismissive. "We appreciate your assessment." The Zorian vessel detached, leaving behind a holographic communication marker, a standard protocol for potential future interactions. As it disappeared into the vast darkness of space, the bridge crew of the UES Horizon exchanged knowing glances. They had just survived humanity's first true extraterrestrial encounter, and while the Zorians believed they had conducted a mere inspection, the humans saw it as something entirely different, an opportunity. In the quiet moments after the Zorian ship's departure, Jay Park turned to his team. Begin full analysis of the encounter. Every single detail matters. Yoon Kim was already multiple steps ahead, her neural interfaces compiling comprehensive reports, running simulations, and creating potential strategic scenarios. The seeds of humanity's future response were being planted in those moments of seemingly calm aftermath. The universe had just witnessed the first chapter of a story that would soon change everything. The first attacks came without warning. Zorion, battleships, massive crystalline structures that seemed to slice through space like translucent daggers, appeared suddenly in human-controlled star systems. Captain Sung Min watched in horror as the holographic displays lit up with countless red markers, each representing a human colony under immediate threat. Defense platforms erupted in silent explosions, their protective shields disintegrating, like fragile glass against the advanced Zorion weaponry. The initial assault was calculated, precise, and devastatingly effective. Within hours, 3 outer colony worlds went dark, their communication signals abruptly cut off. On the strategic command center of the United Earth Defense Fleet, panic threatened to break through the carefully maintained professional composure. Young officers watched helplessly as years of colonial expansion were erased in moments. The Zorion ships moved with an almost surgical precision, targeting critical infrastructure with technology that seemed to defy human understanding. Captain Sung Min's voice remained steady as he issued rapid-fire commands. Activate emergency protocols. Evacuate all remaining civilian populations. But even as he spoke, he knew the chances of complete evacuation were slim. The first wave of human counterattack was pathetic by comparison. Earth's most advanced fighter, squadrons, ships that had once been the pride of human engineering, looked like primitive toys against the Zorion armada. Laser cannons that would have been devastating against human targets simply flickered harmlessly against the alien ship's energy shields. Lieutenant Hana Kim, a young tactical officer, watched in growing desperation as another colony ship was obliterated. Her hands moved across the control panel, searching for any potential weakness, any strategy that might turn the tide. But the technological gap seemed insurmountable. The Zorions didn't just destroy. They systematically dismantled. Each attack was a surgical strike designed to maximize psychological impact. Communication networks went first, then defensive systems, then life support. It was a clinical demonstration of absolute technological superiority. In the first 24 hours, humanity lost more territory than in all previous conflicts combined. Entire planetary populations, millions of people, simply vanished from existence. The attacks were so swift, so complete, that initial reports struggled to comprehend the scale of destruction. Koral, the same diplomatic representative from the First Contact, now appeared on military communication channels. His message was chillingly simple. Surrender is the most rational option. Your resistance is mathematically impossible. But something was happening beneath the surface of this apparent total defeat. In hidden research facilities, in emergency command bunkers, in the minds of those who refused to accept defeat, a different narrative was taking shape. Captain Sung Min knew they couldn't win through direct confrontation. The technological gap was too significant, but humans had never been a species that gave up easily. Every defeat was just another problem to be solved. In a secure communication center deep beneath the surface of Mars, a small team of scientists and military strategists began their work. They analyzed every second of battle footage, every fragment of Zorion technology captured during the initial attacks. While the rest of humanity mourned, these individuals saw something else: opportunity. Lieutenant Hana Kim was transferred to this secret facility. Her exceptional ability to see patterns where others saw chaos made her valuable. She began mapping Zorion attack patterns, identifying subtle rhythms in their seemingly perfect strategy. Days turned into weeks. The Zorion advance seemed unstoppable. More colonies fell. Earth itself began preparing defensive positions, expecting the final assault that would end human civilization. But in underground labs and emergency command centers, something was brewing. Humanity was learning, adapting. The Zorions had made One critical mistake. They viewed war as a mathematical equation. Humans saw it as a challenge to be overcome. Small resistance groups began emerging on occupied colonies. They weren't trying to win battles. They were gathering information, identifying weaknesses, creating disruptions that the Zorians couldn't easily predict. Captain Sung Min looked at the latest strategic maps. To an untrained eye, they showed only defeat. But he saw something else, the first hints of a strategy that could change everything. The initial conflict had been decisively won by the Zorians, but the war was far from over. Humanity was a species that turned defeat into an art form, and this was just the beginning. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the first seeds of resistance were being planted. The Zorians had won a battle, but they had not yet understood the true nature of their enemy. Lieutenant Yu Jin stood in the cramped research facility, her eyes fixed on a complex array of monitors displaying fragmented Zorian communication signals. Around her, a small team of scientists and military specialists worked with intense concentration. They were humanity's last hope, a group dedicated to finding a way to fight back against an seemingly invincible enemy. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine signal analysis, Yujin noticed something most would have missed: a subtle pattern in the Zorian communication frequencies. Most researchers would have dismissed it as random noise, but her unique ability to see connections others missed revealed something extraordinary. "We can disrupt their systems," she announced, her voice cutting through the tense silence of the research center. The method was deceptively simple. By creating specific quantum frequency modulations, they could introduce micro-interruptions in Zorian weapon and communication systems. It wasn't a complete shutdown, just enough to create momentary vulnerabilities. Special operations teams were quickly briefed. These weren't traditional soldiers, but a new breed of warriors trained in unconventional warfare. They understood that defeating the Zorians would require more than brute force. It would require intelligence, adaptability, and unpredictability. The first test came in the Epsilon sector. A small human strike team, led by Captain Min Seo Park, launched a series of lightning-fast raids designed to do more than just damage. Their goal was to confuse, to disrupt, to make the Zorians question their own technological superiority. Their initial attacks were surgical. They would appear suddenly, disable a critical communication node, and vanish before the Zorian defense systems could fully respond. Each mission lasted no more than minutes, but the psychological impact was devastating. The Zorians had never encountered an enemy that fought like this. Their entire military strategy was based on overwhelming technological superiority and predictable engagement patterns. Humans were breaking every rule of conventional warfare. Lieutenant Yu Jin continued refining her quantum disruption techniques. What started as a small interference became a sophisticated method of electronic warfare. Human teams could now temporarily blind Zorian sensor systems, create false communication signals, and introduce critical vulnerabilities in their most advanced technologies. On occupied colony worlds, resistance groups began using these techniques. A communications tower that once broadcast Zorian control messages would suddenly start transmitting human resistance propaganda. Supply lines would experience unexplained interruptions. Zorian troops would find their most advanced weapons momentarily useless. Captain Min Seo Park's teams became legendary among both humans and Zorians. They moved like ghosts, striking with precision and then disappearing before a response could be mounted. Each mission was carefully planned, each action designed to maximize psychological impact. The Zorian military leadership began to change. What had once been confident reports of total victory now included notes of confusion and frustration. Their reports started to include words they had never used before when discussing humans: unpredictable, adaptive, unconventional. One particular mission became a turning point. A small human team managed to infiltrate a major Zorian communication hub. Instead of destroying it, they introduced a complex virus that slowly transformed the hub's communication patterns. For weeks, Zorian commanders received false information, creating internal confusion and mistrust. Lieutenant Yu Jin understood the true weapon wasn't technology. It was imagination. The Zorians had created a perfect, mathematically precise war machine. Humans were introducing chaos, uncertainty, and unpredictability. Resistance cells on occupied planets began coordinating their efforts. They weren't trying to win direct confrontations. Instead, they created a constant state of uncertainty. A Zorian patrol might find its communication systems suddenly scrambled. A supply ship might discover its navigation systems inexplicably malfunctioning. The psychological impact was profound. The Zorians had believed humans were a straightforward, predictable species. Now they were facing an enemy that seemed to change the very rules of engagement. In secret facilities across human-controlled space, more teams like Yu-Jin's were being formed. They weren't just soldiers or scientists, they were innovators. People who could look at a seemingly impossible problem and find a solution that no one else could see. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the initial attacks, humans were no longer just defending. They were fighting back. And the Zorians were beginning to realize that they had vastly underestimated their enemy. Adaptation wasn't just a strategy. For humans, it was a way of life. Dr. Huang Ri worked in a secure underground laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays and experimental equipment that seemed to blur the line between science and science fiction. His team had been working for months, pushing the boundaries of human technological understanding, driven by the desperate need to survive against the Zorian invasion. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a routine analysis of captured Zorian technology, a junior researcher noticed a unique quantum resonance pattern in their weapon systems. Most scientists would have overlooked it, but Dr. Huang recognized something extraordinary. "We can build a weapon that doesn't just damage," he told his team, but completely disrupts their entire technological ecosystem. The quantum disruption cannon was born from this insight. It wasn't a traditional weapon in any sense. Instead of destroying through brute force, it would create a cascading quantum interference that could disable entire Zorian battle groups with a single pulse. The first prototype was installed on the UES Thunderbolt, a modified destroyer that had been stripped and rebuilt to accommodate the experimental technology. Captain Yoon-ji Kim would command the ship, understanding that this mission could change everything. Initial tests were conducted in a secure star system, away from potential Zorian detection. The first test fired a quantum pulse that theoretically should disable complex electronic systems. When the results came back, even the most skeptical researchers were stunned. A series of inert satellite systems, designed to mimic Zorian technology, simply stopped functioning. No explosions, no dramatic destruction. Just a complete and total shutdown of all systems. Military strategists quickly understood the weapon's potential. A single ship could now neutralize an entire Zorian fleet without firing a single traditional shot. It was warfare reduced to its most elegant form, victory through complete system disruption. Production began in secret. Underground facilities across human-controlled space began manufacturing the quantum disruption cannons. Each ship was carefully modified, each crew extensively trained in the new technology's use. The Zorians remained unaware. Their intelligence, networks once considered unbreakable, had been compromised by the adaptive techniques developed by teams like Lieutenant Yu-Jin's. They continued their systematic conquest, believing humans were still a technologically inferior species. Captain Yoon-ji Kim's mission was simple but critical. They would strike at the heart of the Zorian supply chain, a massive logistics hub that supported their invasion fleet. Traditional attacks had always failed, but this time would be different. The UES Thunderbolt approached the Zorian hub with calculated precision. As they entered weapons range, the quantum disruption cannon powered up. The bridge was silent, every crew member holding their breath. The pulse was invisible to the naked eye. But on the Zorian station, something extraordinary happened. Massive. Systems simply stopped. Communication networks went dark. Weapon platforms became inert. Entire sections of the station simply ceased to function. It wasn't destruction. It was complete technological neutralization. The Zorian response was immediate but ineffective. Their backup systems, designed to be foolproof, were equally vulnerable to the quantum disruption. For the first time, their technological superiority became a weakness. Dr. Huang Ri watched the mission reports from the research facility. This was more than a weapon. It was proof that human innovation could overcome seemingly insurmountable technological barriers. More ships were quickly retrofitted. Each modification made the quantum disruption technology more efficient, more precise. The human fleet was transforming from a defensive force to a strategic threat that the Zorians couldn't predict or counter. Intelligence reports began to show confusion in Zorian military communications. Their perfect, mathematically precise war machine was being undermined by a technology they couldn't understand or defend against. The technological revolution wasn't just about a single weapon. It represented a fundamental shift in human approach to warfare and survival. Where the Zorians saw technology as a fixed, perfectible system, humans saw it as a constantly evolving challenge. Captain Yoonji Kim's mission was just the beginning. The quantum disruption technology would spread rapidly, turning each human ship into a potential weapon that could neutralize entire Zorian battle groups. The tide was turning, and the Zorians were about to learn that technological superiority meant nothing against true innovation. Humanity had found its weapon, and this was just the first strike. The final battle erupted in the Orion sector, a massive confrontation that would determine the fate of two civilizations. Commander J. Park stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, his fleet of quantum disruption-equipped ships forming a complex, strategic formation that defied traditional military logic. The Zorian armada approached, hundreds of crystal-like ships that had once seemed invincible. But something was different this time. The confidence that had defined their previous encounters was gone, replaced by a growing sense of uncertainty. Koral, the diplomatic leader who had first mocked humanity, watched from the central command ship. His crystalline form reflected the tension of the moment. Years of technological superiority were about to be challenged in ways he could never have predicted. The first wave of Zorian attacks came with their usual precision. Energy weapons that had decimated human colonies in previous encounters fired, with incredible accuracy. But this time, something unexpected happened. Quantum disruption fields created by human ships began to neutralize entire sections of the Zorian fleet. Ships that moments before had seemed unstoppable simply went dark. No explosions, no dramatic destruction, just complete system failure. Commander Park's strategy was revolutionary. Instead of trying to destroy the Zorian fleet, they were systematically dismantling its ability to function. Each quantum pulse created cascading failures that spread through the alien technology like a virus. Zorian tactical systems, once considered the most advanced in the known universe, began to fail. Communication networks collapsed. Weapon systems became inert. An entire civilization's technological superiority was being turned against itself. Lieutenant Yoon Kim managed the quantum disruption coordinates with surgical precision. Her team had spent months developing algorithms that could predict and exploit the smallest vulnerabilities in Zorian technology. What seemed like random interference was actually a carefully orchestrated technological assault. Koral watched in growing horror. His people had always believed technology was a fixed, perfect system. Humans were showing them that true innovation meant constant adaptation. Each Zorian defensive measure was being countered almost before it could be implemented. The battle wasn't just about military victory. It was a fundamental challenge to the Zorian understanding of technological superiority. Humans were proving that imagination and adaptability could overcome seemingly insurmountable technological barriers. Human resistance fighters on occupied colonies launched simultaneous attacks. Communication systems that the Zorians believed were completely controlled suddenly became channels of human resistance. Supply lines collapsed. Strategic positions became vulnerabilities. Commander Park's voice remained calm as he coordinated the assault. Target their communication hubs. Isolate their command structures. The Zorian fleet, once a model of mathematical precision, began to fragment. Ships that couldn't communicate became isolated. Defensive formations collapsed, The perfect war machine was being dismantled from within. Koral's command ship was one of the last to fall. As systems failed around him, he finally understood the true nature of the enemy he had so casually dismissed years earlier. Humanity wasn't just fighting, they were evolving in real time. The final moments of the battle were almost anticlimactic. Where previous encounters had been marked by massive explosions and dramatic destructions, this was different. The Zorian fleet simply ceased to function, neutralized by technologies they couldn't comprehend or defend against. When the quantum disruption fields finally cleared, something extraordinary remained. Not a field of destruction, but a testament to human innovation. Entire Zorian ships hung motionless, their once brilliant crystal structures now dark and inert. Commander J. Park watched the holographic displays. Years of invasion, of loss, of systematic destruction had come down to this moment. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had transformed the very nature of technological warfare. Koral's final transmission was a mix of confusion and grudging respect. "How?" he asked, the universal translator capturing the profound sense of defeat. The response from Commander Park was simple and clear. "We adapt. We survive." In the days that followed, the human victory would be studied not as a military triumph, but as a fundamental shift in understanding technological potential. The Zorians had seen technology as a fixed system. Humans had proven it was a living, evolving concept. The war was over. Humanity had not just defended itself. It had redefined the possibilities of survival